morning. Another beautiful morning at the clearing. Our first plant today is Ostrich Fern. This is one of 5 ferns at the clearing, 5 native ferns at the clearing, and this is the 4th one that we've looked at this year. We've already seen maidenhair fern and lady fern and bracken fern. This is Ostrich Fern. Very upright, can get up to even 4 or 5 feet tall. It gets its name from the fact, and who knows how people came up with these common names years ago, but somebody thought that one of the ferns looked like an ostrich feather, so that's why it's called Ostrich Fern. Again, very tall. It's one of the crown-forming ferns, and these aren't old enough to have a real distinct crown yet, but that base, which is really a kind of a tight rhizome, above-ground rhizome, will get bigger and bigger and taller as the plant gets older. So it's one of the crown-forming ferns, and it'll actually start to form a colony. Here's one, a young one from this plant right here. Again, it's our tallest fern, very bold ostrich fern. Okay, here we have bee balm. That's what it's called most commonly, but it has lots of names. Some people call it by its scientific genus name, Monarda. Some people call it horse mint. Some people call it Oswego tea, although that's really a name for a different species in the same genus. Some people call it bergamot. So lots of different names, but we most often call it bee balm because really bees love it, as do other pollinators. Hummingbirds even love this plant. Nice clusters of pinkish purple flowers, about an 1.5 inches or so across. Lots of tubular flowers. That's what the butterflies and hummingbirds will stick their beak or proboscis up into to get the nectar. Fragrant. Even the leaves smell nice. They smell like mint. People would often use this to make mint tea, a kind of mint tea. It's in the mint family. Gets about 2 to 3 feet tall, likes sunny open areas. Really a great plant, especially if you're looking to attract hummingbirds and butterflies and obviously bees, pollinating bees. So Monarda or bee balm. This is everlasting pea. It really is a pretty flower. You can see that it's in the pea family or the legume family. These large pea-like pink flowers. It's actually more of a vine. It wants to crawl up into stuff or just lays on the ground like this. It has these interesting wings on its stem. If you know the plant, the shrub burning bush, which is also called winged euonymus, can remind you of that with these wings along the stem. And here are, saw some somewhere here, some developing pods. They were here just a minute ago. A little pea pod. Here we go. Right there. So that'll get bigger and looks like a pea pod and looks like like a pea plant in your garden. Considered invasive, certainly weedy, not native, and again, it's one of those in a group of many that's not going to march into the woods, in the deep woods, and take over like forget-me-nots or garlic mustard. But if you're trying to favor native plants in your landscape, especially like in a meadow, your fence row, this is something you might consider removing. But again, like so many of our invasive plants, it really is quite pretty. So it depends on your point of view whether you want to get rid of it or not. Anyway, everlasting pea. This is bouncing bet, also called soapwort. Early people would crush leaves and it would actually suds up, and something they could use as a soap substitute. It was milder than lye soap. Clusters of pink 5-petal flowers that are fragrant. In this cluster at the top, narrow opposite leaves. It only gets a foot to 1 to 2 feet tall, so not a big, bold plant. It is a non-native and considered by some people to be potentially invasive. We only have a few little patches at the clearing, so it's not really a problem here. And it's something that was grown in gardens for years, back when people would grow various medicinal plants and household use plants. And this was one that they made soap from. Bouncing bet or soapwort. And last but certainly not least, we have big leaf aster. We think of asters as being open plants that like open areas and full sun. Well, this is one that likes shadier areas, not deep shade, but dappled shade. So it's a woodland plant, and because it's a woodland plant, it has much wider and bigger leaves than the other asters because it has to have more surface to harvest sunlight. Just starting to bloom right now. Asters are late season bloomers or late summer, fall bloomers. And here's a cluster of flowers, anywhere from white to pale blue. This has a little bit of blue in it. Yellow centers, typical of aster flowers. It often grows in a patch of large leaves, almost like a ground cover, and then it'll throw up here and there a stalk of flowers later in the season. It's called big leaf or large leaf aster because it has these large leaves, sometimes 4, 5, 6 inches across, which has led to a whole series of other common names over the years that all end in the words toilet paper. So lumberjack's toilet paper, canoer's toilet paper, fisherman's toilet paper, and on and on and on and on. Anyway, big leaf aster, large leaf aster are wonderful shade-loving or shade-tolerating anyway fall blooming aster.